Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome. Today we are doing a Last of Us Part 2 settings video, and if you know, I mainly upload like dailies and challenges on The Last of Us here on YouTube, so a lot of people have been wanting it for a while, and I just recently got asked about it again, so I thought that this would be a perfect time to make the settings video and go over, like, some settings don't really need explanations, and then some that I will definitely go into depth about and explain why I have them on and stuff. And then, yeah, let's just get into it, and then I'll explain as we go. So, starting off, let me go back to the top. Remember shoulder swap? I think it should be off. So if you want it to be, basically what it does is once you shoulder swap to the left and then you stop aiming and then you aim again, it'll be on the left. But if you have it off, it just goes back to the right. And I keep it on the right because most of the times you're gonna shoulder swap once, shoot someone, and then the second you stop aiming, you're gonna want to like just go back to normal. You're not really gonna be on the like left side peak again. So if that's something that you want to turn on, you can. It's not for me though, and that's why I have that off. That's just photo mode. This one isn't really too big of a deal. This is just like fast swap with weapons. You can have it on like only your items that you have in your slots. So it goes from up and down, or it goes from weapons, or you could do every single slot and it will go all the way around if you press R1. But I don't even use that. It's just default, I'm pretty sure, on weapons only. I just cycle through my weapons with the D-pad, the arrows. And then as for sensitivity, here's all of them. I have a pretty fast like look sensitivity because it helps just move like the movement a lot. And then aiming is a lot slower since it's still pretty fast when you're like the difference in looking sensitivity when you go back to aiming, it pretty much feels the same. So I found for me it feels the most comfortable with 75 and 40, and it evens it out. And then scope is a little bit less because it's a different kind of zoom and like feeling when you aim with this. So you want it to be as precise as possible. The only main time you're going to be using a scope is either in the story with Ellie and Tommy like sniping over the ridge, and I guess if you get a scope on one of your guns in the story, and then as for No Return, you only got Tommy's, so it's not too big of a deal. And I guess there is the crossbow as well. You would be using that. The crossbow already kind of has bad accuracy, but that's besides the point, and that's my scope sensitivity. And then as for the acceleration scales, they are also pretty high. This one I believe is default. I think it was always at 50, but I did up this one to 70. And then basically what it does is the more you turn your camera over time, it's going to go faster and faster and faster. So it's just better for faster camera turns and movement, like I mentioned earlier about like the general look sensitivity. I just like it being faster, but again, you can mess around with these, see what you like. There's a ton of options with the sensitivities, and these are more about feel than an actual like setting you can turn on and off. And then if you're an inverted player, I'm personally not, just regular right to left. But basically they just invert everything. So if you were to press up, then it would go down instead. And then motion sensor, I don't have this on. This I did try it once, but it just doesn't help your aim. Like it can, but it's super hard to get used to. And then any small movement of the controller, it's gonna flick your reticle a little bit. So you have to be super precise if you want to mess around with that. It also has its own sensitivity as well. And then camera assist is off. I believe this is an accessibility, so you should not have this on. Aim assist is 0. I just aim like naturally. I used to have this on for like it's always set to 10, I believe, for default from the beginning of the game. But as I played more, as I played No Return more over time, the aim assist I've been noticing like it locks on to a different part of a, let's say, runner's body when you want to hit the leg, or it goes it's trying to like hit the left leg when you're aiming for the right one, and it just drags too much or it could like lock onto a head on accident. So yeah, I just find aim assist 0, you get a much better feel. So like at first it's gonna be weird, but I highly recommend trying no aim assist because once you get used to that with your sensitivity, everything just gets like, much more natural and like you flow better. Lock on aim should also be turned off. That's an accessibility that counts as cheating in no return and just any tournaments that we would have. Okay, moving on to the DualSense. I have adaptive triggers off. I did have these on my first playthrough, just for the fun part of it to experience on PS5, of course. But I noticed that it's more just it's easier. It's easier to have no adaptive triggers, especially like getting the feel for each different weapon for the guns. These are super fun to use on a casual playthrough, but after a while, you probably won't want it on, unless you get used to it. Hey, if you're an adaptive trigger user, props to you. And all these are just like half of their vibration, and then this one is only 10 because it's pretty much very light all the time. The weather. And cinematics accessibility is at 0 because you don't want any guides. You don't really need that. I don't think that does anything for no return. Maybe it does. But that's it for DualSense. HUD, all my no return settings are the same. Like I don't think I've changed a single thing here. And then back up to the top, I use the simple reticle, and this is also something I used to use the default reticle. When I first started, like for a while, like at least 300 plus hours using this, and then I finally decided to switch this. First, I tried it on part one, and then I switched back. But then once I tried it on part two, I did it on both games eventually. It's just much more accurate. You'll notice over time that circle sometimes can like show that it's gonna hit their head, but it actually hits their body. And yes, that still happens with the simple reticle, but I just notice it's gonna be harder to aim at first. Once you get used to it, though, very nice. Weapon cross, damage indicators, everything's kind of normal here. Awareness indicators need to be off. That also counts as a quote-unquote cheat. Hit markers is just default. Arctopath, all these are locked because grounded mode. And yeah, the ones that you see locked are going to just be defaulted because you're playing on grounded. Like, you're not even going to see your health and weapon, your health bar, your ammo, your status in grounded. So those are going to be off. Tutorials off, hints off, speedrun timer. These are just like story mode stuff. So whether you want information on the story or mostly no return, which I'm sure a lot of you guys want that for the settings. And yeah, dodge prompts off. I have pickup prompts on. Well, that's normal. Interact prompts are on, and then collectible tracking I just like to have for the story. And that is it for that. And then subtitles, that's just normal. There they are if you want to pause and look at them. Display, always have it on performance, which most of you most likely have it on. 30 FPS just seems like if you play on 30 FPS after you've been playing on 60 FPS for a while, just toggle this off one time or change it, to fidelity one time during a encounter or something, and you'll notice a huge difference. And you'll see how smooth it is after you turn it back on. And there's other performance and frame settings you can do with VRR and all that stuff, but I am playing on TV, so this does not support any of that. If you have a monitor, you can go up to 120 frames if you want. That just helps your gameplay overall. And then motion blur and camera shake, I have completely 0 because this really messes up the fast movement I was talking about earlier. If you have your sensitivity very high and you're spinning around a lot, these two are gonna get in the way like a lot. When you're just looking and aiming, everything that you do is so, as it says, blurred, like blurry, and the camera shakes a lot. It's really, it gets annoying. And then field of view is all the way at 10 because I love just the farther the camera out, the better for me personally. But you could do this whatever. Basically, all this means is it's gonna be closer to your character or farther away from your character. And then film grain I have off as well. It just makes the game look better, in my opinion. And then Gore's default. And if you want to apply these settings, by the way, like, it's weird with Tlu. You kind of have to go through an entire save file with the settings that you want, or just have that save file on the main menu with all your settings, so it'll save. But if just to be bear in mind, if you have a encounter or any other save file that's completed, and you played with previous settings, and you switch to it, all the settings that you made, the new ones, they'll all go back to your old ones. So basically, try to make all new files with your new settings if you can. I know it takes a lot of time, but that way, if you ever switch to an encounter or you want to practice something, or you go to no return, everything's going to be what you want as the new one. And then audio, there's my audio. It's, yeah, whatever. I mean, you can have it on whatever. And then language, that's just also whatever. It doesn't affect your gameplay. And then one here is very interesting. So yeah, here's the camera assist, lock on aim, all that stuff. Have that off. These, the accessibility options, a lot need to be turned off for, competitive purposes and not cheating, so to speak. Because a lot of these give you an upper hand on other players, which I'll go into detail on the combat accessibilities. But all these are pretty much default for me. And then besides this one, so this one's interesting and it works really weird. I don't know like why this is a thing, but you guys should definitely all change this one to hold. And I'll tell you why. So if you have it on tap, which most people probably do since it's the default, you get grabbed, right, by any enemy and you're just tapping normally and you escape. And then but tap would take the longest to escape out of. Then having it on hold, you can hold it and you'll get out faster than tap. But another layer is you can have it on hold, but you can press tap. So your settings on hold, but still tap like you normally would. So if you guys are a tap player and you switch to hold, there's gonna be no difference. Like you won't need to get used to holding square whatsoever. You can just still tap and it'll escape so much faster. You'll notice a huge difference, and you'll lose less points for that and no return if you get grabbed. So very helpful one right there. Everything else is pretty much the same. Like melee combos is square or tap, sorry, and all these are hold. This is toggle. Even though I don't really use toggle breath, you can get that on a upgrade branch. And then those are done. And then these should all be default for the most part. And don't turn on any of these because, like, cheats. High contrast display is a big one. Don't, this, like, lets you see a bunch of stuff. So yeah, just make sure you have that off, which you can easily tell it's a whole different color from the game. Motion sickness is what we went over earlier with these four, plus the dolly zoom and full screen effects. This is just basically more immersion in the game. It doesn't really do anything to your gameplay, just makes it feel more real. You can have the persistent center dot on as well, whether you're playing on any difficulty. I don't like it because it can help. It's just distracting on the screen for me personally. But again, personal preference, whatever you want to do with that. All these should be off, every single one. These are just all no-goes for no return and story mode. These are just fun, like, things for the cutscenes. Nothing special there. And then combat accessibilities. This is the big one. This is the one where people use these, and I'll tell you the ones that are used the most to get a lot of points, and why you'll see people get way more than they should on a no return run. So obviously you can have them. You need to have them off. You just need to. Like, unless you're playing casually and you're not doing a daily, go ahead. You could have as much fun as you want with these. These are there. These are simply here just for a better experience for a player. But if you're playing competitively and daily run leaderboards, these are not allowed. So, first one is hostage don't escape. You can have it on. I mean, well, I'm saying in terms of the fact that like this isn't a big deal, and then the ones that I'm saying like this needs to be off, that's the one that breaks the game the most. But nonetheless, like I said, combat accessibility is off for competitive settings. You can have these on if you're just playing for fun. But these are ones that people use to get a lot of points. This one is not a lot of extra points out of this. It's just enemies can't break free. Your allies don't get grabbed, so you won't have to worry about the like rushing and saving them. Enemies don't flank is a big one. That just helps your like gameplay. That kind of just shows your skill level too. If you're using this, it's like again, casually, no shame to anyone at all. Have this for fun. Just yeah, do whatever you want, but no return and like specifically daily runs or any like type of tournament things. This is a bad one, and don't do it because it shows your skill. You can't deal with enemies who flank. And then this one is an important one as well. Basically, when you're in stealth, the enemies will see you less in grass and stuff like that, so it'll be easier to get unseen and stuff and no return. This one kind of speaks for itself. They will miss way more, even if you're on grounded. This one will help you dodge like better. They'll swing at you and they'll basically near hit you, and you're still able to dodge like super fast. It's less delayed of a dodge is basically what that does. And this is the biggest one that is used for scores on the no return leaderboard that are simply not possible. All enemies will never see you if you're prone, and you can get unseen for free basically, no matter what, because you're invisible the whole entire time while you're prone. You don't even need to worry about anything. You could do this in hunted humans, you could do this in assault humans, and stuff like that. So that's why on human boards you'll see scores that are like, whoa, what is that? Like all the encounters are humans, and they're just getting unseen on every single one, which is an extra 150 to 200 plus points. But yeah, do not ever use this, please, because this is just not even playing for real. Weapon sway, this is already on, because yeah, this is actually a part of the game mechanics where your guns always have weapon sway, so that's not nothing. And then slow motion, I believe. Oh yeah, it's a toggle. Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't even know what it did. So they have the time slow when you aim in, essentially, or you could just toggle it on and have it on all the time, which clearly you can react to things way quicker and stuff like that. They'll probably use it on with paired with invisible or prone. Those are the two that are like the worst for cheats. And then Tonight of Sound is also a normal game mechanic. So we'll go into extras now, and then this will be the last thing. So filters, you can. I don't have any of these bought in. These are also just for fun, but you should have none. You should have none. And gameplay modifiers, finally, I also have none of these bought in, and you don't want to use these either. Like these are even more broken than the combat accessibilities. I don't believe you can use these on the daily though. Yeah, I don't think you can use these ones on the daily. These ones are locked, if I'm correct. But you can use them on the story, and if you were doing like a speed run, these are not allowed. And you can see infinite ammo would clearly help you. Infinite melee durability, one shots, and one shots with your melee. So it's kind of crazy. And then these are just the audios. And yeah, that about goes over everything settings wise. So to take away, a couple things are your personal preferences for sensitivity and certain toggles. One huge thing I think you guys should have on is again the hold for buttons instead of tap, because you can get out of grabs faster, and that's perfectly normal to use because you can always switch it whether you want to hold or tap, but hold with tapping is the fastest method. And with the combat accessibilities, which is the one that we went over the most, just simply don't use those. Those aren't allowed. I wish Naughty Dog would add a icon next to people's names on the leaderboard if they had them on or not, so we could just tell like, oh, this person's using them. Okay, they have a high score. Then we could just not worry about it. We wouldn't need to argue or anything, or like, okay, they have it. And again, like they're allowed. Clearly, Naughty Dog lets you use them, so you can in theory, but at least we would know who's using them and who's not instead of just assuming and stuff. Well, but basically, they're the general rules of a competitive setting in The Last of Us. Don't have those on. Like, that's the speedrun rules, and that's why we go over that stuff. But thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the settings video. Hope you enjoyed, and hope some of the settings helped you. Definitely test out a lot of things in sensitivity-wise, because it took me a while to get used to, like, just a solid quality sensitivity for me. Everyone's different, so it'll be different. It'll be unique to you. And yeah, I think that's all I gotta say. Good luck on whatever runs you do, story mode or no return. And yeah, wish you the best of luck at getting better at The Last of Us.